My name is Steven. I go by the tag Itsbeeve. I'm from Massachusetts, and I am a 120-star speedrunner and commentator, I guess. So I grew up in kind of like just a regular neighborhood, really. Live with my parents. I have two younger sisters, and I really started getting into like video games when I was super young. Like I was probably like 4 years old, maybe 5. And the first game I ever played was Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. I don't remember this. This is what my dad told me, so I'm going by what he said, but we played Mario Bros. 3 together when I was super young, and like I barely remember. And my parents they're into video games for the most part. I know like when my parents were like dating before they got married, they actually tried to like beat each other's scores on Tetris. Like they were really into Tetris. They would stay up all night trying to beat each other's scores. And I was like, oh, that's nice. When I was 6, I believe, we got an N64. I don't know if I asked for one. I think they just got it for me. And first game I got was Mario 64. And I was like, this game is sick. I love it. It's cool. And I didn't really start playing it a lot more until I was like 12 or 13. And that's when I really started playing a lot. I did tricks, but I didn't do like the speedrunning stuff. So I technically like was discovering glitches. Well, I didn't discover glitches. I was finding glitches through like websites and stuff. I think GameFAQs.com, I saw a post about some dude finding Mips clip. And it was like 2006 or something, or 2005. And I was like, yo, I want to try that. And then I was doing Mips clip in like 2005 and 6. I was like, this is cool. I want more of this. And then I was actually like, you know the cloning glitch and stuff where you like go through a loading zone and you have something in your hands and it loads like another object. I would do that for hours just because I was like, I wonder what object I'm gonna get this time. And I just kept going through the warp zone in Wet Dry World, like where you go to the downtown area to where the regular area is. I was just like, I just wanna see what I can get next. And I was just constantly doing that. I think after that, I didn't really do a lot of Mario stuff. I started a YouTube channel. I was a Let's Player, like way back when. Like it was such bad quality. It was so bad. My old tag used to be Violin Bow 3. But then I changed it when I wanted to get back into like the internet stuff. So there's still stuff out there that you might want to find, but if you want to find it, then go ahead. I remember doing a 16-star Let's Play, and that was kind of funny. I was, I think, 15, 16, around there. So I did that, and I played games with my sister sometimes. We did a lot of Mario Kart. I like doing Mario Kart with them, and same with my parents. We did Mario Party. We played a lot of games together, and I think they were encouraging, but then they were also kind of like, just don't let it get like in front of your schoolwork. It's basically what they said. And I was like, okay, and then I didn't. It still was like an issue sometimes, but it's whatever. Wasn't the greatest in grade school either. I graduated with like a 1.7 GPA or something, so I don't know how I passed, but I did, but I'm good now, I guess. And went to college. I went to a community college. I got an associate's degree, and then I went to a more pronounced college and got like a certificate in construction management. So that's kind of like how my life was going there. And then pandemic hit, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And then I was kind of playing a lot of Smash Brothers. I found Armada's channel, actually. And then Armada was playing Mario 64, and I was like, yo, Mario? Like, people still play this? And I had no idea people were like speedrunning it still. And there was a big community behind it, and I was like, dang, I want to check it out. And I remember Armada raiding Aquarium, and then that's kind of how I got involved with Mario community, because we kind of hit it off from there. And I was like, damn, everyone's super cool here. I want to be involved with this. And then I was like, I want to do Mario, I want to do all this stuff, and basically been that. The linear progression of Beeve right there. So I think I started becoming a stronger player when I got my 149. I was sort of thinking like, I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting on 149. Just I'm not going to be at that level. And like, I kept practicing. I started getting better, and I was like, wow, I actually got it. This is insane. I worked so hard to get a 149. It took me like 6 months. It took me a long time to do it. and I finally got it, and I was like, okay, great. And then I kind of started doing like other speed runs because I wanted to take a break from there. And then I did a little practice, and then I did more Mario, and I got 148 like immediately right after. And I was thinking to myself, like, how far can I take this? So I was just like, because I'm seeing other people get better, so I was like, I feel like I can get better too. When I got my 143, when I got my Siglemic Bop, then I was like, I think I'm getting kind of okay at this game. I was kind of starting to think like, I feel like I can get pretty decent. Then got 139. And I think when I got 139, I was just like, okay, I'm ready to like want to push this even further. So, and with like the LTA happening and like actually almost qualifying, I think that was like, okay, wow, I'm literally right there. Like I never thought I could be up there with all the others competing, but like I actually got like super close. So I was like, I feel like I'm like in a pretty good spot right now where I'm feeling the strongest. I felt like relief, honestly, like after getting the time, because like, you know, you're going through the run and you're just like, there's so much happening, and then you're just like, oh my god, I'm at Bowser 3. Like this is the final throw. Like it's either gonna happen here or it's gonna happen later. And then like once I get it, I'm just like, oh, finally. I just was kind of pushing myself, and I may have pushed myself too far sometimes where it's like, okay, maybe I should have like taken a break or taken a step back, but it all ended up working out and it was fine. So I feel like Mario 64 is like super movement heavy because it just has like so many movement options you can do. Like you can make them do whatever you want, and obviously there's like a faster option to do a specific thing, but like you can kind of like make it your own kind of like movement in a way, as long as it's like, you know, as long as it works for you and as long as it's like fast or whatever. I think it's interesting like as a speed game because typically when you see speed runs, you kind of see runners doing the same thing and you just see whoever can do it better. With Mario 64, it's like people have like a style, if that kind of makes sense. So like in like Smash Brothers Melee, people have their own styles of how they use the character. Kind of applies to Mario 64, where it's like, oh, this player's super aggressive with their play. They go for everything. They do like crazy stuff, and like their movement is just like very, very fast. There could be a player that could be like, oh, they're very consistent. They play very safe strats, but they're just like, they're always gonna get like good runs up to Tippy. And then you have like a player like Hallie who just like does crazy stuff that no one else does, and it kind of like really opens like a new page in like the Mario book of like, oh wow, they're doing this strat like here, or they're doing this movement here that I never thought of doing. It kind of like opens your brain canals to like make you think differently, and I think it's super interesting as a speed game because of that. I typically don't really see that in like other speed runs, so I think it's really cool. I'd say like one of the hardest strats, like obviously I could say carpetless, but like I kind of don't think it's hard. It's just more so of just like making sure like you're positioned the right way. I'd say one of the hardest strats I really had to learn that I wanted to like push was pillarless, because like I sat down for like 3 hours straight and I did not get it once, and I'm like, I don't understand this strat at all. I looked at so many tutorials. I had people in voice calls. People were asking, like people were helping me, and I was like, I still can't get it. Like I don't know what's happening. And then I finally was able to get it once, and I was like, oh my god, I finally got it. It took forever and it was so hard. I think that kind of separates like the beginner players from like getting into the run or into the Mario run in general, is like taking a strat and like getting it down consistently. I think pillarless is probably the hardest trick I can think of off the top of my head. I kind of just think like the run's gonna die at any point. The run could die here, the run could die on this star, the run could die on this star, and I kind of just keep thinking worst case scenario, because it kind of makes me think not further out ahead. I kind of just think one star at a time, because I don't want to think like, what strat am I gonna do in Tippy? Am I gonna go for Wilco Clip? Am I gonna do this, like, am I gonna do breezeless? You know, like, I don't wanna think of those things. I just wanna think of, I'm in Wet Dry World, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do the triple jump, wall kick off the cage, do express elevator. Okay, I did that. Next star. And then I just kind of like put one foot in front of the other and just not really overthink that I'm going to be in Tippy on pace like that. I do, however, like whenever like I'm either best pace ever or I'm like, oh, I have like a really crazy uptime, I'm nervous, and like you can't really help that. But like the nerves kind of settle down once you're like doing the stars like in order. Just like, you know, do your routine. Don't treat it like a super fast X cam. Just treat it like you're, you know, going through the game. You're enjoying the game, and like whatever happens, happens. And like if you know you die in the game, then it's like, okay, I got this far. It was a good run. We tried our best. I don't really get upset when I'm losing a run, like PB pace in a tippy, because I'm like, this is the kind of run I've been looking for, or like I'm glad I got a run this far. I think pretty optimistically whenever something like that happens. I think the worst is when you reset in lobby constantly. That's kind of the worst feeling in the world. But when you reset a run to tippy, it's like, that was a good run. Good run regardless. Patience. You need a lot of patience. You gotta have the right kind of mindset. You gotta make sure you have time for it too, because everyone is not going to, you know, drop everything in their life and start speedrunning Mario and do it like 24/7, like streaming as their full-time job. Everyone has a life, you know. I have a job, you have a job, like everyone at the venue probably has a job, hopefully. Like everyone has their like own life essentially. So life doesn't revolve around Mario. So you kind of have to like, don't take it too seriously unless you're actually wanting to turn into like a career, but you really have to be like pretty decent at the game for like that to happen. Like I mentioned before, patience, it's a big one. You gotta make sure like you're gonna lose runs, you're gonna reset a lot, you're gonna put a lot of time in this game. And you also want to see like how far you want to take it to, because some people are just like, yep, I'm gonna retire when I get a sub hour in 70 star, and then they move on, and you know that's their goal. That's what they want to do. I think having a goal is super important. I think I kind of am a hypocrite because I said my goal was 149, and then I said my goal was 143 Sigma McBob, and then I said my goal was 139, and I'm still going. So I guess I can eat my own words, but I still want to improve and, you know, whatever. But when it comes to like someone else, just don't take it too seriously. Make sure you practice, make sure you have good patience, and then pick a good category that appeals to you the most. I suggest 16, 70. Don't do 120 until you've done 70, in my opinion. And look up strats, talk to friends, make friends in the community, so that way it's a little more easygoing. Pretty much all I have to say with that. So I actually just talked about this on comms a little bit, like right before I got here. So like even before the setup came out, there's a runner who goes by Parsi from Japan. Insane runner, very, very good runner. Had 70 star world record at one point. They were doing the OG carpetless in 120, and I remember being in a voice call with like numerous people in the community, and everyone was either like, he's gonna kill 120, or people were like, I'm popping the popcorn because this is awesome. I was like basically biting my nails the whole time because I'm just like, this could kill 120 so easily because no one's gonna do carpetless ever. No one at that point before the setup was found. Literally, like Parsley did do a run. They got like a 145 or something, and they got carpetless like 6th try or something, but they were practicing it a lot, like on stream. Like a ton, because they really wanted to put it in a run because it saved like a minute. It saved so much time. And so when the setup was found by Critholith, and it wasn't the setup we do now, but it was like the diagonal notch setup, I was a little skeptical because I was like, I can see this kind of working, but like you need a perfect downright notch, and like I really don't think people are gonna like work with that. I think it's too finicky, especially that late in the run. I just didn't see it being possible, so I kind of was thinking like, maybe it'll work, I'm not sure. The fact that a setup was found that was kind of like canonless-like, where you had to like, you know, set yourself up a certain way, I thought that was cool, and I thought that was really neat. But I think like when people were doing it on stream, like Simply and Sweegie, like all of them, they were attempting it for like multiple hours. Like I think I think simply had like a 10-hour stream just doing carpetless or something. It was like a super long stream, and he was just doing that constantly, and he was like, okay, I think I understand it, whatever. And I was like, I don't know, man, I don't think this is gonna work. I think this is just like such a Hail Mary of a strat. Like, you can go for it if you're like super red, but basically whatever. But even before we like thought about setting up something for that, another setup was found, and that's the setup that everyone uses now. There's like different ways to do carpetless, but I'm just gonna stick with the one that worked from the beginning. Not the diagonal setup, but the one that came out after that, orthogonal Jones. I think that one's great. But some people do designated Jones, so there's a lot of different setups for it. My thoughts when it came out, I was just like, this is actually working, and this is actually insane. And I think it was a huge like motivator for me to push my time even further. I was still trying to do PB attempts, but I was not considering trying to like go past like a 140 because I don't even think my sum of this was a 139 at that point. Since carpetless came out, I was just like, okay, I think I can probably push to get a 139 if I just practice carpetless a bunch. And then everyone else was just like, either they were for it or they were against it. I know players that like refuse to do carpetless. They haven't been playing the game since, but I know most players are just like, this is the greatest discovery ever. And I kind of agree. It's biggest discovery since canonless, in my opinion, like that big of a strat. I think it was ginormous. So that really made me push me to like work on my time to go even further. And right now I just want to like keep seeing where it can go. I don't know, really. I just like, my family always told me, and like, I'm not tooting my own horn, this is literally what I was told. They were basically saying like, everything you do, you're good at. Everything. Like, you just like, you could play soccer, yep, just go for it. You could play basketball, yep, just go for it. You can do golf, yep, just do it. And my parents are just like, how is he good at like everything he does? This is just insane. This is what they told me. I'm not saying I'm insane at everything, but this is just what I was told. When I kind of picked up Mario like kind of well. Like, it was like I've been playing it my whole life. Like, casually, I beat it once a year. Like, it was just a tradition for me to do that before I speedran it. So I already had like good movement in Mario, and I feel like that kind of helped me like be better at Mario because of that. But when it came to like other speed games, my girlfriend was telling me, she was like, if you want to do another like run, like another game, no one's stopping you from doing that. And I'm like, yeah. I always find other runs like very fascinating. Like, I always wanted to speedrun Super Metroid. That's like almost my favorite game next to Mario 64 in terms of like watching. I love the Metroid speedruns, they're so cool. I think taking the idea of learning it in like 1 week and then trying to get the best time you can get at the end of the week, I thought it was like a pretty cool and unique challenge. I wanted to make like a YouTube series out of it, but I never got around to doing it because life got in the way. But I was still able to do the challenges. I did that all throughout 2022. So it was super cool. I learned a lot about other speed games. I met people from other communities, very, very generous like people out there in other communities. It's not just Mario, but it's just, I think speedrunning as a whole, it's really cool that everyone kind of bands together for a game that was released in like the 90s or the 80s. So I think it's super cool. Well, first of all, like, it needs to be a game that I'm familiar with. If I'm not familiar with the game, I'm not gonna run it because I don't really know much about it. Every game I ran in that year, I was somewhat familiar about. Like, I knew things about it that made me want to be like, okay, I want to try it because I know some things. I know what I'm expecting. So I saw what the world record time was, and then I was like, depending on how long the category was, let's shave off like how much time it would be for me to feel like that would be an adequate time for a beginner to learn. So I picked a time and I was like, all right, that's my goal time. I'm gonna go with that. So like my first game that I did was Mario Brothers 3, Warpless. The world record at the time was like a 50 something, I think. And my goal was like, let's just go for sub hour, you know, an hour, sub hour. I think that's doable. Some people are like, you're insane. That's not gonna work. You're not gonna get sub hour. Spoiler alert, I didn't. I actually got a 101. It was close. I got super close. But that game's hard. That game is actually very hard. It's harder than it looks. But So I take that, and then the goal time that I have, I find someone's random PB in that time, and I base my strats off of what they have in their run. And I'm like, those are the strats I'm gonna learn. So I take that, I watch it, I write down notes. I have a whole Excel spreadsheet of like, okay, I'm gonna learn this strat, I'm gonna timestamp it, I'm gonna make sure, I write down the details. So I type it all out, and then I'm like, okay, this is probably what I'm gonna do. And then depending on what split it is, I'm like, okay, this split has this split has this split has this. So I would do that, and then I would get the practice ROM. I try to play on original hardware as much as I can. For Mario Brothers 3, I did play on original hardware. The hardest thing though was I didn't have an EverDrive on NES, so I just kind of raw dogged it without a practice ROM. But the practice ROM for Mario Brothers 3 is good, but I try to get the practice ROM, I practice on that, and then I kind of just like work to see what works, and then maybe I have to dumb down some strats. Maybe I'm good at strats right out the gate. It really depends on the game, but when it came to learning the game, that kind of took a few days, depending like on the category. For when I did Zelda, that took like 4 days, and then for Banjo 100%, that also took 4 days because that run was really long. It was like 3 hours long. After I learned the route for that, I was just like, okay, I think I can do a run. And then I try to brute force a run to see if it works. And if nothing works, I'm just like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and then see what's working, see what's not working, etc. That was only for the week challenges. For games that I wanted like to speedrun that wasn't the week challenges, I found like a time, and I was just like, okay, this is a decent time. And then I based my strats off of that, but then maybe I wanted to push it further, and I kind of did that for some games. Like I ran Metroid Prime. I didn't change any strats in Metroid Prime. I just got better with my movement. That's a very movement-heavy game, similar to Mario actually, which is kind of interesting. Even though it's a first-person shooter, it's very movement-heavy, so it's kind of interesting to think that way. Another one is Banjo. I kind of took that one a little further after the week challenge because I like that one. Super Metroid, I like that game a lot too. I stopped playing it though because it started hurting my hands. And then Metroid Dread I liked a lot. I actually started speedrunning it like day one because I was like, I need to run this. This seems like a sick game. And Metroid Dread, it was just such like a crazy time because there's things getting patched out, new things being implemented. Our turbo controllers involved, and like it was like a whole debacle. I think that's pretty much summing it up there. Oh man. Okay, nonstop. I was doing vanilla speedruns, and then I think I saw D Whatever doing nonstop, and I was like, he was going for record for 70 and 120, and he got them both. And I was like, this category is really cool. It's doing a lot of cool like movement that I didn't think would be like used in Mario in general. It kind of thinks outside the box, which I thought was super interesting. So I was like, I want to try nonstop, see how it goes, because not a lot of people did it. And I was like, well, this is super fun. It's sort of like each stage is like a big giant 100 coin when you do nonstop 120. It's like a huge 100 coin star, essentially. It's very long. I think it's super cool. I'm not like a huge fan of nonstop anymore because you don't really have time to have a break. Because like in Mario, you get the star, you jump out of the painting. Mario does a song and dance. You wipe your hands off, take a sip of water. I think it's like a very like good paced game vanilla wise, but in nonstop you're just like you're rushing like constantly. You're all over the place. You're just like, okay, I gotta open this door, I gotta go over here, okay, I gotta exit the stage, okay, I gotta move to the next part. The longest break we had was the carpet ride, but now since we have carpetless, there's no longer like a huge break anymore. So I kind of made me shy away from nonstop a bit, and then I got more into vanilla 120 anyways, so that's essentially that. But yeah, D Whatever is basically the main reason why I picked up nonstop, because he made it look cool. It's a good question. I'm gonna say no. I kind of take different games like differently than Mario. Mario, I'm kind of like very reset heavy because I just want to get a good run and like I know what I'm capable of. If I'm doing like a Metroid Prime speedrun, I'm like, I'm just gonna finish it out. I'm just gonna see what happens, and like I could be. This happened in my PB. I was like red for like I was like a minute behind my PB or something, and then all of a sudden I was just like 2 minutes ahead at the end of the game. I was just like, what happened? What happened in this run? So it just randomly happens, but that happens with games that you don't normally speedrun often. But when it comes to like mentality with other games that help with Mario, I'd say no. Doesn't really help anything. That's a tough question. I really, really, really liked Super Metroid. Like, I was actually thinking of dropping Mario for Super Metroid because I really, really liked it so much. But the controller sucks, dude. It's a tiny little piece of plastic, and you're just doing that constantly, and it's just like, it was really hurting my thumbs a lot. I started getting really harsh thumb pain I never experienced before. Even with Mario, I don't get any of that thumb pain at all. With Super Metroid, I don't know if it's the way it's ergonomically held or what, but it started hurting my hands, and I was feeling bummed about it because I was like, man, I could have taken Super Metroid pretty far, I think, because I was very into it. It's similar like in Mario because it's all movement based. For any percent Super Metroid, not like the glitch heavy Super Metroid run that's like 10 minutes long or something. I'm talking about like no major glitches, any percent. It's roughly like an hour long if you were to like learn it real quick. I'd say it's like my favorite, and like I said, it's similar to Mario because like there's things called room times in Super Metroid where you try to go through a room as fast as you can, and the practice run will give you a timestamp, and I'm like, wait, that's like an XCAM. That's like so similar to an XCAM. A room time is an XCAM, and I'm like, you can literally take a Super Metroid or you can take a Mario mentality and transfer it over to Super Metroid like very easily, in my opinion. I think those games are pretty similar in that regard. That's probably why I like them so much. I know a runner who used to do Mario is now a very good Super Metroid runner. I think he goes by Finn L, I believe his name is, or Finn W. I think it's Finn L. I think that's his name. He's a very good Super Metroid runner. Maybe he has this sort of similarities with me with Mario and Super Metroid, where we think they're both super cool games, but he's the one runner that comes to my mind when it comes to Mario and Metroid at the same time. Yeah, Super Metroid, hands down, probably my favorite. That's a tough question because I don't really play games casually, sadly, as much. I mean, I'm playing the remake for Thousand Year Door right now. That is pretty sick. Music's really cool. So I'm enjoying that right now. I haven't beaten it yet. One of my favorite games recently that I played casually was a Pokemon Legends game, Arceus, or whatever it's called. That game was basically a childhood dream come true. You just throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon, like what I thought Pokemon should have been like a long time ago. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think that game is super cool too, casually. Brings back like all that music that was in like the PS1 era and like amplifies it. I think the music was cool. A lot of cool stuff with the characters. A lot of personality added to the characters too that I feel like they should have done that in the original, but they didn't. So that's cool. I think another game, I'm trying to think of like not modern games. I'm trying to like go back. So what stinks is like whenever I do like casually playing something, I just end up speedrunning it. Like when it's like an older game. I guess like F-Zero X is probably one of my favorite games casually. Just something about that game is really cool in N64. It's also a nostalgia thing because I always played it with my dad. Literally like blast from the past when I played it with him last Thanksgiving when I was over at my parents' house. My dad was like, bring your N64, we gotta play F-Zero X. I'm like, okay, I haven't heard you say that in a long time, but sure. So I brought it and then we stayed up till like 12 a.m. playing it, trying to beat each other's time trials like we used to do. I thought that was nice. I think that's probably one of my favorite games casually. During like a little bit before the interview and before PACE, I was planning on just doing OT like a lot because I wanted to like learn more about it. I did do a week challenge of it like back in 2022. I did GSR though, which is a shorter category, and it's not really like super interesting. I think the more interesting categories are like 100% and MST, and I was like, I'm gonna learn MST. I think that's like a decent category to learn. I think it's a really cool looking category. There's a lot of movement with it too. There's other runners trying to go for the world record. Spittle, San, and Arthur Houdini. They're trying to get world record in MST. So I think there's a little like hype behind it. So I was like, I kind of want to learn it and see what happens. And I wanted to learn MST like way back when too, like when I did GSR, because I was like, this game is actually kind of cool. The setups are interesting. And I love OT. It's one of my favorite games ever. But I didn't do it like 2 years ago. I stopped learning the quote-unquote MST. I like barely put time into it. So a month ago, I started learning MST, and Spittle Sam was like, I was DMing with him. He was like helping me out, trying to like learn the category. I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I'm nailing the tricks. I think it's working. You know, I got my setup done. I got my ESS adapter. I'm ready to go. I'm super happy. And you start runs and you're like, this may not be fun. Because like MST is like a gauntlet. It's tough. It's a tough, OT in general, it's a tough game. It's not like Mario. It's not movement heavy. It's all trick based. It's very, very hard. It's like literally a polar opposite from Mario. It was kind of demoralizing to do runs and just be like, I did learn everything, but I don't see myself getting any further. I know people take like a month to learn a category in OT and then they do runs. I spent like 2 to 3 weeks, so I was like, I think I'm good enough, but it was nowhere close to being good enough. So it's going to be put on pause for now. I learned all of MST. I definitely want to go back at some point. I want to just put it on hold for a bit, and then I'm going to go back to Mario. And I know I'm flip-flopping a lot, but I think that's for the best because I just want to like get a good time in Mario now, or a better time. So that's kind of like my mind is with OT at the moment. So I'll revisit it later in the future. I was thinking about it. I literally had 2023 planned out to do a bunch of speed games as well. Every month I was going to do one in 2023. Then I moved and I didn't have electricity for like 2 months. So it was kind of hard to like do stuff because of that. So I was kind of thinking like, I probably shouldn't do this because it's going to be a lot of time sank into these games I'm never going to play again. And I was like, I don't want to waste my time. And I was so hooked on Mario too. That's when I started getting like, that's when I like got my 143 and I like started getting better at the game. I was like, I'm just gonna stick with Mario. I'm just gonna keep pushing it and I'm gonna focus on that mostly. I did have plans to do Pokemon Red glitchless. I had plans to do a hit score run for Star Fox 64. I had Banjo-Tooie I was gonna do Mario Galaxy. I was going to do like a bunch of, I was going to Metroid Prime 2, because I speedrun Metroid Prime 1. I want to do Metroid Prime 2, SMB 2, SMB 1 Warpless. I had so many games I wanted to learn, and I just never got around to doing it. So if I ever get around to it, you know, speedrunning's not going to go anywhere. So maybe I'll do it one day. Again, who knows? Yeah, I love music. Music's cool. I don't really listen to music. I mean, I listened to like the video game OSTs before I even played instruments, but this is back when I was like 10, because I picked up the viola in 4th grade. The viola is like a bigger sized violin. It's like an alto violin, and you play on a different staff. You read music differently on it. It's a pretty different instrument. You play it similarly, but it's basically a different instrument. The parts I got on viola were just like, they're boring. I didn't like them. So I was like, all the violins have the cool parts. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick up violin instead. So I learned how to read that clef. So viola read an alto clef. It looks like a B shape. And then for the violin, it reads a treble clef, which is like a G shape. That's the one like everyone knows. So I was like, I'm gonna learn violin. I'm gonna see if I like it. I remember my orchestra teacher being pissed at me because she was like, no, you could be so good at viola. And I was like, no, it's boring, I'm sorry. So I switched to violin and I loved playing violin. I loved classical music. I loved listening to Vivaldi is super cool. If you ever want to check out like classical artists, I think Vivaldi's really sick. He's the one who made the Four Seasons. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that one. And then Dvorak is also super sick, and Shostakovich is super cool as well. I like him. He's nope. Tchaikovsky's cool too. So I listen to a lot of that music. I remember this game coming out. This is going to be a shocker to some people, but when I got into different kinds of music, that started with Guitar Hero, and I got Guitar Hero, and I got really good at that. I could play on expert, whatever. As a kid, it was cool. I was playing through the fire and flames. Woo! Crazy, I know. So I did that, and I was like, let me just play real guitar, see how that goes, because I'm like, it can't be any different than Guitar Hero, maybe. I don't know, it's 5 buttons and a strum. Like, how much harder can real guitar be? And I'd say like real guitar is probably easier than Guitar Hero looking back, actually, but that inspired me to do guitar. And my parents are like, do you really want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So they got me like a starter strat kit with like a tiny little amp. And like, I didn't know anything about guitar, and they brought me in to do some guitar lessons over at like a local music place. I was just like, the guitar is super cool. I think I can get pretty decent at it. And then I hung out with a bunch of people that were from like the surrounding colleges, and they were like, you know, inspiring, and I really enjoyed playing with them. They were super fun. I made friends there. And then I made friends like in my town and like other towns, and then we played shows out. I was in numerous bands after that, so I started getting a little bit better at guitar. I remember like my dad being disappointed in me for choosing metal as like the kind of genre I wanted to be in a band with, but I was rambunctious. I wanted the metal. I wanted to headbang. I wanted to be that guy on stage. Yeah, I loved playing guitar on stage. It's super fun. So I was in I'm not gonna name drop my bands because I don't want to get doxxed, but I was in one band in high school that lasted a few years, and I'm still friends with everyone in that band. We're all best friends, but we just mutually ended it because we all went to college. So obviously we couldn't keep that going. During that time, I actually played a show at the local, like our local city, and I actually met my girlfriend of 12 years at a show. And her band was playing, and my band was playing, and we both saw each other, and the rest was basically history between the two of us, and we've just been together ever since. So she had a band, and then she found out I played violin. She's like, wait, you do? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And she's like, there's no way you do. So I was like, I have a violin right here, I'm gonna play it for you. And she's like, there's no way. She was impressed, and she was like, do you wanna join our band? I'm like, as like violin? And she's like, yeah, why not? I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, how am I gonna play a violin with a rock band? Like, I don't know how this is gonna work. And I had like a pickup on like my violin, but it sounded really bad. So I ended up getting a electric violin, and that was cool. So I played electric violin for a band as well. That was dope. And then several years passed, and there's another buddy of mine who was in my other band. He was like, we're looking for a guitar player in this band that I'm in. Would you be down? And I was basically saying yes, because I miss playing music, because I haven't been playing in a while. I did that, and that lasted up until the pandemic. And then I was in another band. So I was in 3 bands at once. I was pretty busy. I was playing like 3 shows a month. I was in another band that my buddy was trying to start, and he needed a drummer, and he knew that I played drums as well. And the way I played drums was, shocker, Rock Band. So Rock Band is what gave me the hand-eye coordination to do drums, and I'm like, it's pretty similar. Like, if you could play drums on Rock Band, you could play the real kit. Like, it's pretty good, I think. So if you ever want to learn how to play drums, that's a good way to start. But anyways, yeah, I got good at drums on Rock Band, and that transferred to a real kit, and my buddy was like, all right, cool, let's start it up. We made a bunch of music videos, super fun. We did like some mini tours, so we went up into New York, we went through New Jersey, Long Island. Super cool time, definitely very fun, and I had a blast playing music. Right now, I'm not playing any music. Since COVID, it's kind of been hard to like go out and play, but things are opening back up again, so I think I might be able to like do some more stuff in the future. But right now, I'm kind of a free agent when it comes to music. Yes, 100% yes, yes, yes. I honestly think speedrunning is like playing an instrument. I think it is like very similar, because when you play Mario, it's like it's rhythmic in a way. Like you hear like a cue in your head, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna instinctively press A and B on this frame, and like it just times up super well. So it's almost like a rhythm tap game in a way. I just thought that was like kind of like cool to like make that like comparison when practicing music and practicing like a speed run. I would say, yeah, they're very similar. The thing that you can't do in a speed run sort of is slow down in a way. Like you can't really like make the frame rate of, well, to my knowledge, I played a lot of games, so I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, there's not like a practice run where it like slows down the game so you can press the button in time. I mean, Ocarina of Time is a good practice run for that, but you kind of advance it per frame. It doesn't have like a slow motion like kind of practice run kind of thing. But when it comes to music, you can slow it down and practice it at a metronome pace, and you can just get better as you just keep, working on like the finger positions and whatever. So that's kind of hard to tell that's kind of hard between the two, like how similar they are. But like in terms of like playing the instrument and playing the speed run, they're like very identical in my opinion. But when it comes to like practice, I think it's kind of the same mindset actually, because there's competition in Mario. There's competition in music too, believe it or not, like a ton of competition. Like when I was in high school, I was like trying to go into like festivals, and I was doing like competitions and stuff, and I got into some of them, but like sometimes when you got rejected, it was like, man, I feel like I'm not good. Like I suck, You kind of have that mentality, you doubt yourself a lot. It happens. There's people that are gonna be better than you, and that really does come down to like speedrunning as well. It's the same kind of mindset. There's people that's always going to be better than you at certain stuff, but as long as you focus on yourself, that's all that matters, in my opinion. You don't have to worry about other people. But when it comes to like music, when there's a direct competition, it's a little hard to kind of not doubt yourself. When you do win competitions, and like when you do like progress, like when you do like get better and better in an instrument, it's super rewarding in my opinion, and you start noticing improvements in your playing, and same thing goes with speedrunning, it really does. So I like some sports, but like I'm not really super into sports. Like I think my parents were kind of like trying to force me down the sports path, because they said like I was good at all of them that I did, like I mentioned previously. I remember I was in like Little League in baseball, and I was like making dirt mountains with my shoes in the outfield, or like on third base or something. And I remember my dad seeing that, and he literally just like walked out in the field, grabbed my arm, and he was like, "We're effing out of here." He was like, "You're not interested. I'm not even gonna waste your time." So he kind of knew at that point. He was like, "Okay, he's not into sports," and I kind of wasn't, but I was a little bit, but I also like kind of wasn't. So I was like, whatever. Music, video games. What else do I like to do? I honestly don't really have like that, like many like different hobbies, because like speedrunning and music really take up a lot of your time. So goal right now, 2024, I made a goal that I really want to get a 137 by the end of this year. It's pretty ambitious, but I think if I keep practicing and not get sidetracked with other games, maybe I can get a 137, but we'll see. But that's my goal with speedrunning right now, is 137, and then maybe revisit OT later. I'm not sure. I think the 137 is more important to me, because I got so close to qualifying for pace. So I think that's very important to me. Streaming goals, I mean, I tried to like make the push for Twitch partner. It was going well, but then I kind of stopped. Like I started getting too busy with trying to be a streamer, and I started becoming more of a speedrunner. So I try to focus more on speedrunning more than focusing more on my stream, if that makes sense. So maybe in the future, that'd be cool. I think future goal in general, I don't know, buy a house at some point. I'm still living in a rinky-dink apartment that under landlord laws, it's not great. But I would like to get a house in the future. Housing market's very bad right now. People looking at a house, don't do it yet. The interest rates are pretty bad. And the prices are outrageous. But yeah, I would like to get a house at some point, and then just keep traveling the world, because I like traveling the world right now. I just went to Sweden. It was super cool. Now I'm here in Maryland. It's also cool. I went to Las Vegas last week. That was super cool. Like, I'm doing a lot of traveling I never thought I would be doing. So I think I'm leaning towards me wanting to travel more in the future. You know, get more healthy, eat good food, and live life to the fullest. That's basically all I have, because I'm basically in a good spot where I want to be now. So. Please tell me that's fucking it, man. Come on. Dude, there's no way. I'm a legend if I get this. I think I got it. Dude. Holy shit, man. Oh my God. There's no fucking way.